What happens when an entitled celebrity walks into a studio thinking they can control the narrative, only to face a seasoned host who refuses to play their game? Tonight, we're diving into one of the most explosive interviews in recent memory, where politeness turned to hostility, carefully crafted responses crumbled under pressure, and a guest's true colors were revealed for all to see. The tension in that studio was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and by the end, security had to step in. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below about what you think went wrong in this interview. Kevin O'Sullivan had been preparing for this interview for weeks. His team had briefed him extensively on the potential landmines, the topics that were off-limits, and the carefully orchestrated talking points that would likely be presented. But Kevin, known for his unflinching approach to celebrity interviews, had other plans. He wasn't interested in a sanitized conversation filled with rehearsed soundbites. The studio lights were blazing as Meghan Markle entered, her team trailing behind with clipboards and stern expressions. She had agreed to this interview as part of her media tour, expecting the usual softball questions about her latest projects and philanthropic endeavors. Her publicist had been very clear about the ground rules. Certain topics were absolutely forbidden, and Kevin's team had seemingly agreed to these conditions. "Meghan, wonderful to have you here," Kevin said with a professional smile as she settled into the guest chair. "I hope you're ready for an honest conversation." "Of course, Kevin. I'm always happy to discuss my work and the causes I'm passionate about," she replied, her media training evident in every carefully measured word. Kevin nodded, shuffling through his notes. "Let's start with something light. Your recent appearances have been generating quite a buzz. How do you feel about being back in the public eye?" "Well, I never really left, Kevin. I've been consistently working on projects that matter to me, supporting communities that often don't have a voice. It's about using your platform responsibly." Interesting perspective. Now I have to ask, because our viewers are curious, how do you balance your public work with your private life? There's been considerable speculation about, shall we say, tensions at home? Meghan's posture shifted slightly, a subtle tightening around her eyes. "I think it's important to maintain boundaries between public and private life, Kevin. My family is not up for discussion. I understand the desire for privacy, but surely you can appreciate that when you're a public figure, people are naturally curious about all aspects of your life. Your marriage, for instance, has been the subject of considerable media attention." "As I said, Kevin, that's not something I'm here to discuss. I'm here to talk about my work, my advocacy, and the positive changes we can make in the world." Kevin leaned forward slightly. "But don't you think your audience deserves authenticity? They've invested emotionally in your story, your journey. When you shut down legitimate questions about your personal life, doesn't that feel a bit, well, calculated?" "I'm not shutting anything down," Meghan replied, her voice carrying a slight edge. "I'm simply maintaining appropriate boundaries. There's a difference." "Is there though? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you want all the benefits of public sympathy and support, but none of the scrutiny that comes with it. You've been quite vocal about your struggles, your challenges, but when pressed for details or asked to elaborate, you retreat behind this wall of privacy." "That's not fair, Kevin. I've been very open about my experiences, about the difficulties I've faced, but that doesn't mean I have to dissect every aspect of my personal relationships on television." "I'm not asking you to dissect anything, Meghan. I'm asking you to be honest. There have been reports, multiple sources claiming that things at home aren't as picture perfect as you'd like the public to believe. Are you happy in your marriage?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Meghan's media training was warring with her instinct to defend herself, and Kevin could see the internal struggle playing out across her face. "I'm not going to answer that question, Kevin. It's inappropriate, and frankly, it's none of your business." "But it is my business, isn't it? You've made your personal life very much the public's business, through your various interviews, your documentary series, your book deals. You can't have it both ways." "I've shared what I've chosen to share, on my own terms. That's very different from being subjected to invasive questioning about my private relationships." Kevin's tone remained steady, professional. "I'm not trying to be invasive, Meghan. I'm trying to understand the disconnect between the public persona and the private reality. Your own family members have spoken out, raised concerns. Don't you think the public deserves to hear your side of these stories?" "My family," Meghan said, her voice growing colder, "has their own agenda. They've never been supportive of my choices, of my happiness. I'm not going to sit here and validate their narrative." "So you're saying they're lying? Your father, your half-siblings, they're all just making things up?" I'm saying they have their perspective, and I have mine. And frankly, their perspective has been consistently negative and harmful. But what about your husband's family? There have been reports of tensions there as well, allegations of difficult behavior, unreasonable demands. Are those all lies too? Meghan's composure was beginning to crack. I think this line of questioning is completely inappropriate, Kevin. We had an agreement about what would be discussed. We had a general outline, yes. But this is journalism, Meghan, not a promotional interview. These are legitimate questions that millions of people are asking. Well, maybe millions of people need to mind their own business. The mask was slipping, and Kevin could sense the real Meghan beginning to emerge from behind the carefully constructed public persona. Kevin recognized the shift immediately. Years of interviewing celebrities had taught him to read the subtle changes in body language, the micro-expressions that revealed when someone was about to abandon their media training. Meghan's fingers were now gripping the armrest of her chair, her carefully maintained smile replaced by something far more genuine and far less pleasant. I think we need to take a step back here, Kevin said calmly. I'm simply asking questions that any reasonable person would ask. If you're going to put yourself in the public eye, if you're going to profit from your personal story, then surely you can understand why people want to know more. Profit? Meghan's voice rose slightly. You think this is about profit? You think I enjoy having my life dissected by strangers, having my every move analyzed and criticized? I think you've made very lucrative deals based on your personal story. Yes, the streaming contracts, the book deals, the speaking engagements. These are all built on your personal narrative, are they not? That's completely different. Those are my stories, told on my terms, in my own words. But they're incomplete stories, aren't they? You present one side, your side, and when anyone questions the narrative or asks for clarification, you shut them down. That's not storytelling, Meghan. That's propaganda. The accusation hit its mark. Meghan's eyes flashed with anger. How dare you? How dare you sit there and accuse me of propaganda when you don't know what I've been through, what I've survived? Then tell me, help me understand. But you can't expect people to simply accept your version of events without question, especially when there are so many contradictory accounts from people who were actually there. Those people weren't there when I was crying myself to sleep, Kevin. They weren't there when I was being systematically undermined and isolated. They weren't there when I was fighting for my mental health. And I'm not dismissing your struggles, Meghan. Mental health is incredibly important. But using your mental health as a shield to avoid legitimate questions about your behavior, that's not fair either. A shield? Meghan's voice was incredulous. You think I'm using my mental health as a shield? I think you're using it to control the narrative. Every time someone asks a difficult question, you fall back on your struggles, your pain, your victimhood. It's become a pattern. Victimhood? Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the studio floor. I am not a victim, Kevin. I am a survivor. And I refuse to sit here and be lectured by someone who has never walked in my shoes. Please, sit down. Let's continue this conversation like adults. Adults? You want to talk about adults? An adult would respect the boundaries I've clearly established. An adult would understand that some things are private, that some wounds are too deep to be entertainment for your audience. Kevin remained seated, his voice steady. And an adult would also understand that when you make your private life public, when you monetize your personal struggles, you open yourself up to scrutiny. That's how this works, Meghan. I never monetized my struggles. I shared my truth to help other people who might be going through similar experiences. For substantial financial compensation, let's not pretend this is pure altruism. Everything I do is scrutinized, Kevin. Every decision, every appearance, every word. Do you know what it's like to live under that kind of pressure? To have your every move dissected by people who don't know you, who don't care about you as a person? I imagine it's very difficult. But you chose this life. You married into it. And when that became challenging, you made the choice to continue living in the public eye. You could have stepped back, lived privately, but you didn't. I chose to use my platform for good. I chose to speak out about important issues. And you chose to air your grievances publicly, to make accusations against people who can't defend themselves in the same forum. That's a choice too. Meghan's publicist was making frantic gestures from behind the camera, clearly trying to get her client to regain control of the situation. But Meghan was beyond caring about optics now. They can defend themselves, Kevin. They have entire institutions behind them, press offices, communications teams. I had nothing. You had your husband, you had his support, his platform. Or are you saying he wasn't supportive? Don't you dare try to drag him into this. I'm not dragging anyone anywhere. I'm asking about your marriage, about your partnership. You've said you felt isolated, but you were married. Help me understand how someone can feel isolated when they have a spouse who presumably loves and supports them. You wouldn't understand. You don't know what it's like to have your husband's family turn against you, to have them brief against you in the press, to have them prioritize their institution over your well-being. So you're saying your husband chose his family over you? I'm saying the situation was complicated. Complicated how? Did he stand up for you or didn't he? He tried, Kevin. He tried, but there are forces at play that are bigger than any one person. Forces that were more important than his wife's mental health? More important than his marriage? Stop it. Stop trying to twist my words. I'm not twisting anything. I'm asking for clarification. You've painted a picture of systematic abuse, of being unsupported and isolated. But you were married to someone who presumably loved you. So either he was complicit in this abuse, or he was powerless to stop it. Which is it? Meghan's hands were shaking now, her carefully applied makeup beginning to show signs of stress. You're being deliberately obtuse. You're trying to create drama where there doesn't need to be any. I'm trying to understand your story, Meghan, the story you've told the world. But when I ask for details, when I ask for specifics, you become defensive and evasive. I become defensive because you're attacking me. You're trying to make me look bad, to make me seem unreasonable. I'm holding you accountable for your public statements. There's a difference. The tension in the studio was palpable now, the crew exchanging worried glances as they watched the interview spiral further out of control. Kevin could see his producer making hand signals from behind the camera, suggesting they take a break. But he knew this was the moment of truth. This was when the real story would emerge, when the carefully constructed facade would finally crumble completely. Meghan, I need you to sit down. We're going to finish this conversation. No, Kevin, I'm done. This interview is over. Meghan turned toward the exit, but Kevin's voice stopped her. Running away again? Is that your solution to every difficult situation? She spun around, her eyes blazing. Excuse me? You heard me. When things get tough, when people ask hard questions, you run. You did it with your family. You did it with your royal duties. And now you're doing it here. How dare you judge me? You don't know anything about my life, about what I've sacrificed. I know what you've said publicly. I know the claims you've made. But when I ask you to defend those claims, to provide context, you shut down. That's not the behavior of someone who's telling the truth. The truth? Meghan laughed bitterly. You want the truth? The truth is that I walked into a family that never wanted me, that saw me as a threat from day one. The truth is that I tried to make it work, tried to follow their rules, tried to be what they wanted me to be, and it nearly destroyed me. And your husband? Where was he during all of this? He was trying to protect both sides. He was trying to keep everyone happy, and in the process, he failed to protect me. So he let you down. He made choices. We both made choices. What kind of choices, Meghan? Be specific. I'm not going to air my private marital issues on your show, Kevin. But you already have, haven't you? In your other interviews, in your documentaries, you've made it clear that you felt unsupported, that you were fighting battles alone. What I'm asking is whether your husband was part of the problem or part of the solution. This is harassment, Kevin. Pure and simple harassment. This is journalism. This is what happens when you make serious accusations against prominent people and institutions. You get asked to back them up. I don't have to back up anything to you. I don't owe you explanations. You don't owe me anything, but you do owe the public something. You've asked for their support, their sympathy, their money. In return, they deserve honesty. I have been honest. I've been more honest than anyone in my position has ever been. Have you? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you've been very selective with your honesty. You've told the parts of the story that make you look sympathetic, but you've conveniently left out the parts that might make people question your behavior. My behavior? What about their behavior? What about the racism, the bullying, the systematic destruction of my reputation? I'm not dismissing those concerns, Meghan, but you've made very serious allegations without providing proof. You've accused people of racism without naming names or providing specific examples. That's not accountability. That's character assassination. Character assassination? I'm the one who's been assassinated, Kevin. My character, my reputation, my mental health. And you've fought back by doing the same thing to others. You've used your platform to settle scores. To get revenge. Revenge? I've used my platform to tell my truth. Your truth, yes. But what about the truth? What about the whole truth? Meghan's voice was rising now, her composure completely gone. You want the whole truth? The whole truth is that I was naive. I thought love would be enough. I thought that if I worked hard, if I followed the rules, if I tried to fit in, they would accept me. But they never intended to accept me. They wanted to use me and then dispose of me. And your husband allowed this to happen? My husband was caught between his family and his wife. He chose his family. So your marriage failed because he prioritized his family obligations over your relationship? Our marriage didn't fail, Kevin. We made a choice to prioritize our happiness over institutional expectations. But you just said he chose his family over you. He chose his role, his duty, over our relationship. There's a difference. Is there? Because it sounds like you're saying he abandoned you when you needed him most. Stop trying to put words in my mouth. I'm not putting words anywhere. I'm asking you to clarify your own statements. You can't have it both ways, Meghan. Either he supported you or he didn't. Either your marriage was strong enough to weather the storm or it wasn't. You're impossible, Kevin. You're twisting everything I say. I'm asking for consistency. I'm asking for truth. Something you seem incapable of providing. That's it. I'm done. Meghan ripped off her microphone and threw it on the floor. This interview is over. You're a disgrace to journalism. And you're a disgrace to honesty? Kevin replied calmly. You've built your entire post-royal career on playing the victim, but you can't handle being asked to defend your claims. Security! Meghan shouted toward the crew. I want this man removed from my presence immediately. This is my show, Meghan, my studio. If anyone's leaving, it's you. Fine, I'll leave. But don't think for a second that this is over. My lawyers will be in touch. About what? About being asked legitimate questions during an interview you agreed to participate in? About harassment? About defamation? About the hit job you just attempted to perform on live television? The only thing I've done is ask you to be accountable for your public statements. If that feels like a hit job, maybe you should examine why. Meghan was already walking toward the exit, her team scrambling to keep up. You haven't heard the last of this, Kevin. This will have consequences. The only consequences will be for you, Meghan. The audience will see exactly who you really are. They'll see how you react when someone doesn't play along with your narrative. Goodbye, Kevin. I hope you're proud of yourself. I'm proud of doing my job. Something you might want to try sometime. The studio door slammed behind her, leaving Kevin alone with his crew and the camera still rolling. He straightened his tie and looked directly into the camera. Well, there you have it, folks. When faced with legitimate questions about her public claims, about her accusations against some of the most respected institutions in the world, that's how she responds. Not with answers, not with evidence, but with threats and tantrums. I think that tells you everything you need to know about the credibility of her story. He paused, letting the weight of what had just happened settle over the studio. The truth has a way of emerging, doesn't it? No matter how carefully you try to control the narrative, no matter how many sympathetic interviewers you surround yourself with, eventually someone will ask the hard questions. And when they do, your true character reveals itself. Kevin looked directly into the camera one final time. That's all for tonight's show. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more interviews where we actually hold people accountable for their words and actions. And comment below with your thoughts on what you just witnessed. Do you think I was too hard on her, or was this exactly the kind of scrutiny she deserved? Let me know what you think.